Hey guys, I'm going to try round 2 of my video here. So I'm in Afton, Oklahoma, and sometimes I'm being quickly just repeating myself. I just got cut off by an incoming phone call, which I still haven't done what Sean said, which was put it on airplane mode and I wouldn't be interrupted. So this is my second version. Anyway, sometimes things come to me, and sometimes I don't really have anything really specific to talk about that comes to mind, and then just like this journey has happened so far, bam, all of a sudden something jumps out. And that kind of happened this morning, and I'm going to talk about a topic in a little bit that is that many of you that have been with me a long time as friends have heard me talk about, but most of you don't know me but for the last few months or days even. So I just feel I have to talk about this because it goes back to pointing the thumb and accountability and ownership, and then how some people just get a pass and it bothers the living daylights out of me. So before I do that, let me talk about last night and the plans for today. So last night I was greeted by the folks of Afton, Oklahoma very warmly. There's a cafe right behind me here that I'll be going and having something to eat for breakfast, so I'm getting a late start today. If you remember my video from the day before, I didn't sleep much, and my mind was racing, faster than it's possibly capable of going. I was pretty wiped out. So last night I slept good this morning. For me to sleep until 7 o'clock, that's saying something, because I'm usually up by 3 in the morning, at least a few times. But anyway, so there was a group of people, about 8 of them last night, that met me and talked with me, and I'm going to do a terrible job of trying to remember names. Cindy in the Chamber of Commerce is the one that kind of was instrumental putting it all together, and I love her for that always. And a lot of it was family. I remember little Tenny Hadley. Joe from the newspaper was there, and we had a nice dinner, and it was a nice moment for me to get to talk about folks. I had a live stream going last night. I had to end it a little quickly, and just so you all know the reason why I did that. My mindset was basically that, hey, these folks not only were offering me hospitality that I needed to be appreciative of, but they also hadn't heard my message that I want to convey about the journey and where I'm going with that. So you guys who are following me, for the most part, have. So I didn't want to be, I don't want to be disrespectful to you, but I certainly didn't want to be disrespectful to them either. So, so we had a nice dinner last night, and one of the conversations that struck out at me was the complete polar opposite of a moment I had just back up in Miami with a gentleman named Omar Perez. So Sydney's mom's an older woman, and she was telling me how one day she saw a gentleman walking down the highway here, not far from where I am, and he just looked gassed. He said he had nothing but looked like a little blanket, a little bag or something. So she wanted to do something. She was kind of had her heart in it, and said, I want to help this gentleman. But she wanted to be cautious. She's an older woman. He was a man, and said, how do I go about doing this? So I think she called one of her daughters and called her grandson and said, look, we gotta help this man. And the grandson basically said, look, Grandma, I don't have time for this right now. And said, no, we're gonna do it. So they went and got him a sandwich and got him some water, and they ran out to meet him. And I'm gonna do the story a little bit of injustice, but basically the guy didn't want the help, didn't want the water, didn't want the sandwich. And from what I understand, as her son was trying to give it to him, he's kind of making faces at him like this the whole time. So I guess that would kind of rile me up a little bit if I tried to do something good, and that's the reaction I got. So anyway, so eventually they headed off, and I think her grandson's message, Grandma, back it up and run him over, will you please? So when they said last night, hey, if we see you tomorrow, we'll help you, I said, no, maybe if your grandson's with you, I don't know if that's the kind of help I need or want, but I promise you I'll graciously accept whatever sandwich and water you give me. So last night was kind of fun. It wasn't long. I was kind of wiped out, and I apologize that other than little Hadley, Joe the newspaper guy, and Cindy, I forgot most of the names of the nice folks that were there with me. So I apologize about that. Today is a beautiful day weather-wise right now, but as I said yesterday, who knows how long that lasts anymore out in the plains. I can see nothing but cloudless skies for what seems like miles. Behind me there's some clouds, but out in the distance, no clouds at all. But who knows how that works out. But I do have, today's going to be the first day in a run of several where I have that unknown ahead of me. Early in the journey, I walked and I had no knowledge about anything. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know a lot of history of the town. I certainly didn't know what people I was going to meet. Nobody had heard about me. And I've been on a pretty good run because I guess of the popularity of the Facebook and Steve and other folks who kind of have met me and said, hey, I got a friend in that town, and reaching out. So at least some people are expecting me. But today, nothing like that. I'm going to a town called Veneta, Best I could tell, it's about anywhere between, depending upon where in town I am, 16 to 18 miles, and where I go in Veneta. So I'm about 16, 18 miles away. And again, it's that unknown day. Now I do know that I'm going to go have some breakfast. There's nothing in between, they basically tell me. So I'd need to go across the street to that little mini mart over there and get myself a bunch of waters, which is going to weigh me down. Normally, someone asked me yesterday, normally I leave with about 3 waters, knowing that somewhere in that 8-mile range I'll meet somewhere and can get 3 more waters, because the less I carry, the better. That pack seems to be getting over 30 pounds now, maybe even more, I don't know. But so carrying 6 waters, but I know I need to do it. It is a really cool day with a nice breeze right now, so the sun's not up and cooking me just yet, so that's a positive. But so that's a little bit about last night and today, because I spoke to mostly last night. There are 2 things I was going to talk about today. One of which is this unit right here. So I'm going to talk about, in fact, you know what, I'm going to do a live video of this in a few minutes, because most of you don't know what this thing is right here. Certainly I didn't before coming out to the west, the Midwest. But it's a pretty essential necessity out this way. I also found a phone in the parking lot. I'm going to go turn it into the cafe people when I go back in here in a few minutes. But if you know anybody in the area and are hearing this and they drop the phone in the cafe parking lot, let them know to come pick it up. Lastly, so there's one topic I wanted to talk about. Just a short while ago, I was getting ready, had the TV on, big sports fan. And I'm going to probably piss a lot of people off here shortly, but I shouldn't piss anybody off. If anybody can't point the thumb at themselves, they're a clown. Sorry if I hurt their favorite team's reputation in some way, but I didn't do it, they did. So I was listening to ESPN and getting ready and dressed and packing up my bag. Because I don't know why, I have the need to repack my bag every morning. I take everything out. I don't know why I do that. Probably because I'm poorly organized. Anyway, and last night was really, in essence, the start of college football. The OSU Cowboys from Mike and Carla got it done last night. So did a bunch of other guys. My man Scott killed it. So that was a good thing. But it brought back a memory for me of college football that I think is deplorable. And I think it's deplorable how people get a pass. I think how it's deplorable how a young man lost his life. I think it's deplorable how some folks get a pass, and how some people's family lets people get a pass on accountability. So let me talk about that if I can. But before I do that and minimize anything, just this past summer, a gentleman at the University of Maryland died of heat exhaustion in practice because the coaches were being a little bit too alpha on him. But I think there's accountability there. There's people losing jobs, there's people getting fired, there's people that will probably be getting sued, and all of that, rightfully so. However, this one is not that particular circumstance. This is a gentleman, and I would beg you all, please, after you hear this, go to your computer and look up at Google a young man by the name of Declan Sullivan, D-E-C-L-A-N Sullivan. Let me tell you a little bit about Declan Sullivan. I talk about him almost every year because, A, because I'm a father, B, because I'm a decent human being for the most part, and C, I just despise when people aren't held accountable and force their own agenda. So, Declan Sullivan was a young man that was attending the University of Notre Dame. And what he would do for the university is he was in the AV department, I guess, and he would go at their practices. And if you've ever been to a major college football stadium and practice, they've got probably about 130 players. They don't dress them all, but they got that many players and they're all over the field and they're coaching. So what Notre Dame, like a lot of schools does, is they take these scissor lifts and lift them up in the air, and they put kids up in the stadium and on the lifts with cameras to film the practice, so the coaches can then look at the practice afterwards and make the determinations and see what other kind of changes they need to make and so forth. Well, on this one given day, up in South Bend, Indiana, Declan Sullivan was fearful for the loss of his life because the winds were so strong that the scissor lift that he was on was literally swaying. And he was literally tweeting out, whether it was tweeting or IM or whatever, he was tweeting out in the minutes leading up to this unfortunate circumstance, you know, I'm going to die today. This is crazy up here, you know? And think about that for a minute. So this kid volunteers to go help out the college football program. College football program filled with adults and people who should be responsible. And if I remember the story correctly, and I've forgotten a little bit, the AD happened to be down on the field that day, and there was some story about, winds were so strong, just crap was blowing on by, and I think something large had kind of blown by or something along those lines. But suffice it to say that he was 40 feet in the air on the scissor lift, and the winds came, gusts came over, and his kid, who had just minutes before been tweeting that, hey, I'm going to die up here today, maybe meaning it, maybe not meaning it, maybe just joking, but, certainly concerned enough that this scissor lift went tumbling down and crashed to the ground, and this young man, 20 years old, lost his life, Declan Sullivan. And, that's just amazing to me. Could nobody be an adult on the damn field that day? Is everybody so self-absorbed that someone can't make the damn decision to say, hey, you know what? Not today, bud, get down from there. To all the kids that were out there. I'm hoping my kids go off to college, and I'd like to think that if they're in that same situation, somebody with a clear thinking head, not so self-absorbed with their own agenda of winning a football game, and I'm the greatest coach of all time, so, we need this valuable film. They weren't even playing, I think they were playing they might have been playing Tulsa, to be honest with you, I'm not sure. And I only say that because I'm not far from Tulsa right now. But they were playing a mid-level team that they were clearly better than, and again, I'm not sure what those 30 minutes of film was going to change the world. But the coach, Brian Kelly, I guess, and I say Brian Kelly because he's the head coach, so I think everything starts with the head coach. I don't know if he was on the field that day or not, I'm sure he was. But somebody had to be a goddamn adults and make a right decision for somebody. And this kid ended up losing his life, all because he was filming on a day he shouldn't be filming, a practice 40 feet up in the air. And that's just absolutely absurd to me. But then what I find even furtherly absurd is that, to the best of my knowledge, there was not one bit of ramification against the coach, any of the coaches, not even the head coach, any of the coaches, the athletic director, or anything else. So at some point you say to yourself, well, I'm sure the family reached out and sued the school and for wrongful death and lack of leadership or something, right? But no, the best of my knowledge, the story goes that the parents, and again, maybe this is just that people are so enamored with the Golden Dome of Notre Dame, or they, again, they treat it with these kid gloves, or maybe these people are just so faith-based in God that they don't feel there's a need. But they essentially gave, and again, this is me speaking, this is not them, me speaking off of the newspaper articles I read, they basically gave Notre Dame, the university, a pass. So they haven't even named the damn stadium Declan Sullivan Stadium yet or anything like that. If I'm Notre Dame, I'm dodging a bullet because I just saved about $3 million in legal fees and about another $30 million in wrongful death lawsuit. And again, that quality school with that amazing group of folks and that amazing head coach and that amazing AD, to the best of my knowledge, hasn't even renamed a stadium or a field after the kid. And it just blows me away. I'm not one that's big on suing people for the sake of suing, but you know what? If somebody is simply wrong, and in this case, there's not a black and white on this one, or there's not a gray area. It is clearly, you got a 20-year-old kid saying, I'm going to die up here today, and 20 minutes later he's dead, while people are watching the scissor lift go back and forth, and not one person could stand up and make a decision for him. Come on, man, are you kidding me? So this kind of goes back to that point in the thumb bit, and why as adults, I'm still rambling here, I apologize, why as adults we have to sometimes do things for the betterment of others that don't have the foresight or the confidence to do it themselves. Anyway, I think somebody's calling this phone. Let me answer this phone, and I'm going to then also do a quick live video of this and sign off. Love you guys. Kira, Grace Landon, love you guys. Take care. Bye-bye now.